The use of abstraction is not new in art, yet many students struggle with understanding what abstraction is and how it helps artists communicate complex ideas. Typically, abstraction is used in the arts as a synonym for abstract art in general. Strictly speaking, it refers to art unconcerned with the literal depiction of things from the visible world. It can, however, reference an object or an image which has been distilled from the real world, and indeed another work of art. Keys to success when working through abstraction. Limit your palette. Elegant abstraction is created through reduction. As you identify the landscape you plan to work with as a source for a project, select a grouping of 3 visual elements from a scene: a color, a pattern, a texture. Then find materials that have those colors, patterns, textures, fibrous or not. Limit your palette to only 3 material sources. And experiment with the techniques learned in class to make non-representational forms. To create non-representational forms, think about the shapes of things in the scene. Are there a lot of diagonals? Is there some kind of visual rhythm? Now combine the limited materials, limited techniques, and limited forms. Sketch out variations first. Find a doodle that has some kind of dynamics to it, something risky or challenging. Test the materials and the techniques together. You are now throwing spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks. Once one works the way you want, repeat that combination over and over again. Successful, elegant abstraction. Here is an example of abstraction in painting by Mondrian. First, we see the tree as a sketch, and the colors are abstract and reduced to gray tones. Then, a flowering apple tree we see in the tree form has been abstracted to gestural lines. Thus, the image of the tree has been abstracted or reduced down to lines and reduced in color palette. For this project, we'll be piecing together fabric, known typically as patchwork or pieced work. This is a form of needlework that involves sewing pieces of fabric together into a larger design. The large design is usually based on repeat patterns, built up with different fabric shapes, which can be different colors. These shapes are carefully measured and cut, basic geometric shapes, making them easy to piece together. Evidence of patchwork or piecing, small pieces of fabric put together to create a larger piece, and quilted layers of textile fabrics together, has been found throughout history. The earliest examples have been located in Egyptian tombs and also in the early age of China, about 5,000 years ago. Further finds have been dated from the early Middle Ages, where layers of quilted fabric were used in the construction of armor. This kept the soldiers warm and protected. Japanese armor was made in a similar fashion. An artist who works with quilt forms is Sanford Biggers. Sanford Biggers was raised in Los Angeles and currently lives and works in New York City. His work is an interplay of narrative, perspective, and history that speaks to current social, political, and economic happenings, while also examining the context that bore them. His diverse practice positions him as a collaborator with the past through experimentation or explorations of often overlooked cultural and political narratives from American history. Working with antique quilts that echo rumors of their use as signposts on the Underground Railroad, he engages these legends and contributes to this narrative by drawing and painting directly onto them. Another artist who works with abstraction is Polly Applebaum. Polly Applebaum is a New York-based artist who works with dyed velvet. Her floor-bound installations, which incorporate hundreds of pieces of velvet, hand-dyed in bold hues and often arranged in sprawling configurations that appear to be organically inspired. It defies categories of art making. like abstract paintings that melted off the wall and formed vibrant puddles. Her arrangements of irregularly shaped rounds, diamonds, and ovals coalesce with the physical presence of sculpture while maintaining painting's sense of vibrancy. Applebaum's work wrestles with the indeterminate zone between painting and sculpture that she exploits in her installation Blossom. Appropriating an entire architectural space in a sort of hybridized three-dimensional painting, Blossom is one of 3 circular works named for the Powerpuff Girls. The 2 others are, of course, titled Bubbles and Buttercup. As the units change in color, Blossom radiates in an orange center in rainbow of segments that convert the title's noun into a verb. Applebaum creates environments of queasy emptiness that are oddly reminiscent of interior decor from Target, aesthetically appealing and affordable, but made of cheap, garish materials that can only be temporarily distract attention from the moldering messiness of our lives. For this project, students must return to the music video selected in the Shibori project and select a scene from it or distill elements from the video into an abstracted piecing quilt top, or pieced quilt top. You will be abstracting this video or a scene from the video for your quilt. Let's look at this scene as an example of where to start in your abstracting. What are the materials present in this scene? Neoprene, plastics, wood, nylon, etc. What is the color palette? The palette consists of cool yellows and blues. What are the textures? The textures are smooth, glossy, silky. What is the climate? The climate is overall cool, overcast, or wet. Where are they? They appear to be at a dock with seafaring materials and surroundings. What seems to be happening? The crew is being interviewed as they prep for an adventure at sea. All of these things can inform the choices you make for your quilt top. There is certainly a color palette to follow, but there is also a directionality to the work. As most of the characters are standing at attention, there is a sense of verticality to everything. Additionally, the choice of including synthetic materials seems evident when choosing the types of fabric to use. How might you make a composition that gives us a sense of wetness, or interact with the idea of setting off into the world? For our abstracted quilt top, we will be returning to the music video selected for our Shibori project and selecting a scene from it or distilling elements of the video into an abstract piece quilt top. Any materials can be used for the quilt top. They must be constructed out of geometric rectilinear cut fabric. This means only squares, triangles, and rectangles. The quilt top must measure 24 inches by 24 inches, and the individual pieces should not be smaller than 3 inches in size. You should not use fabric previously used in the class. Do not use your embroidery project or your Shibori project for the material for your pieced quilt. It should be all new materials.